Most people are controlled by everything around them. A rude comment ruins their day. A rejection destroys their confidence. A delay makes them angry. A setback makes them quit. They do not control their emotions. Their emotions control them. But the most dangerous person in any room is the one who cannot be emotionally manipulated. In this audiobook, you will learn how to become unshakable, unreadable, and emotionally bulletproof. The kind of person who stays calm while others collapse. This is your transformation from triggered to unmovable.
Most people believe power comes from force, from speaking louder, from dominating the room, from proving they cannot be disrespected. But real power is quieter than that. Real power is the ability to remain unmoved when everyone around you is losing control. Because the moment someone can predict your reaction, the moment they know exactly what will make you angry, defensive, insecure, or emotional, they gain power over you. If they can trigger you, they can control you. That is the brutal truth most people never learn. Every time you snap in anger, every time you rush to defend yourself, every time your mood is ruined by a stranger's opinion, you are handing away your power. You are revealing your emotional buttons. You are showing the world exactly where to press. And once people know where your weaknesses are, they will use them. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes unconsciously, but they will use them. The world studies your reactions. It watches what offends you. It watches what breaks your confidence. It watches what makes you desperate to explain yourself. It watches what sends you into emotional chaos. And then it learns how to manipulate you. This is why emotional people are easy to control. A person who cannot manage their emotions can be led by anyone who knows how to provoke them. Think about how often people destroy opportunities because they reacted emotionally. A talented employee ruins their reputation because they cannot handle criticism. A strong relationship collapses because one person cannot control their temper. A gifted entrepreneur loses everything because panic made them make desperate decisions. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked emotional discipline. Your reactions reveal your level of mastery. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. Anyone can appear composed when things go their way. But pressure exposes the truth. Stress reveals character. Conflict reveals discipline. Disrespect reveals maturity. Who you become under pressure is who you really are. And if pressure turns you emotional, impulsive, reactive, or unstable, then you are not yet in control of yourself. Many people think reacting emotionally proves strength. They think anger makes them powerful. They think aggression earns respect. They think immediate retaliation shows confidence. It does not. Uncontrolled emotion is not strength. It is exposure. It tells everyone in the room that your internal state is controlled by external events. That means your peace is fragile. Your discipline is conditional. Your confidence is unstable. And fragile people are never truly powerful. The strongest person in any room is not the loudest, not the most aggressive, not the most intimidating. It is the person who remains calm when everyone else becomes emotional. Because calmness under pressure signals control, and control creates authority. Imagine two people in conflict. One is shouting, emotional, impulsive, reactive. The other is composed, measured, silent, and steady. Who appears stronger? Who appears more dangerous? Who appears more in control? Always the calm one. Because emotional instability looks weak. It communicates insecurity. It communicates lack of discipline. It communicates inner chaos. People trust calm leaders. They follow composed individuals. They respect those who do not break under pressure. Your ability to remain composed directly determines how others perceive you. But more importantly, it determines how much control you have over your own life. Because if your emotions control your actions, then your emotions control your future. One angry reaction can destroy a career. One impulsive outburst can destroy a relationship. One emotional decision can ruin years of progress. This is why mastering your reactions is not optional, it is foundational. You cannot become disciplined if your emotions dictate your behavior. You cannot become respected if your mood changes with every inconvenience. You cannot become powerful if your peace can be stolen by anyone. Understand this clearly. Your emotions are not the problem. Your lack of control over them is. Feeling anger is normal. Feeling frustration is normal. Feeling pain is normal. But acting on every emotion immediately is weakness. Animals react instantly. Strong humans choose response over reaction. That is the difference between emotional slavery and emotional mastery. When something happens, an insult, a setback, a betrayal, a frustration, your first emotional impulse is not your final truth. It is simply your nervous system firing. You do not have to obey it. You can feel anger without becoming anger. You can feel frustration without losing control. You can feel pain without collapsing. This is what mastery looks like. To become unmovable, you must create space between stimulus and response, between what happens to you and how you choose to react. In that space lies your power. Most people never develop this space. They live in permanent reaction mode. Their environment controls them. Their circumstances control them. Other people control them. They are emotional puppets pretending to be free. But freedom begins when your emotions no longer command your actions. The goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to become disciplined enough that your emotions inform you without controlling you. That is maturity. That is power. That is self-mastery. So from this day forward, watch your reactions. Study them. Notice what triggers you. Notice what makes you defensive. Notice what makes you angry. Notice what loses your composure. Because every trigger reveals a weakness, and every weakness can be trained. Every time you resist the urge to react impulsively, you become stronger. Every time you remain calm under pressure, you build power. Every time you refuse to let emotion control your behavior, you reclaim authority over yourself. Remember this: anyone can control you if they control your emotions. So stop being easy to provoke. Stop being easy to manipulate. Stop being easy to read. Because the moment you master your reactions, you become difficult to defeat. And the moment you become difficult to trigger, you become dangerous. If they can trigger you, they can control you. Never forget that.
One of the greatest mistakes weak people make is allowing everyone access to their inner peace. They let strangers ruin their mood. They let criticism destroy their confidence. They let disrespect consume their thoughts for hours. They let one bad interaction poison an entire day. That is not sensitivity. That is lack of boundaries. Most people live as if their nervous system is public property, open for anyone to disturb, provoke, manipulate, or invade. And then they wonder why they feel constantly exhausted. Because every time you allow another person to dictate your emotional state, you surrender your sovereignty. You hand them control over your mind without them ever earning it. Understand this clearly. Not everyone deserves emotional access to you. Not everyone deserves the power to affect your peace. Not everyone deserves the ability to disturb your nervous system. Yet, most people give that power away freely. A stranger gives them a rude look, their mood changes.
Someone ignores their message, their anxiety spikes. A coworker criticizes them, their confidence collapses. A family member disapproves, their peace disappears. Why? Because they have made the fatal mistake of valuing external behavior more than internal control. They have outsourced their emotional state to the people around them. And anyone who depends on external conditions for internal peace will never know real stability. Peace that depends on perfect circumstances is not peace. It is fragility. If your calm only exists when people treat you well, when life goes your way, when no one offends you, when nothing frustrates you, then you are not calm. You are merely comfortable. And comfort is not strength. Strength is remaining steady when conditions are not. Real emotional power begins when you stop giving everyone VIP access to your mind. Ask yourself honestly, why does that person's opinion matter so much? Why does one rude comment stay in your head all day? Why does one act of disrespect shake your confidence? Why does someone else's behavior have authority over your nervous system? Usually the answer is simple, because you care too much. You care too much about being liked, too much about being respected, too much about being understood, too much about how others perceive you. And the more validation you need from the world, the more vulnerable you become to it. Because what you need emotionally can always be weaponized against you. If you need approval, disapproval controls you. If you need respect, disrespect controls you. If you need praise, criticism controls you. If you need understanding, misunderstanding controls you. Dependency creates vulnerability. The less you need from others emotionally, the freer you become. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming selective. Selective about who gets access to your energy. Selective about whose opinion matters. Selective about what deserves your emotional response. Not every comment deserves attention. Not every insult deserves defense. Not every conflict deserves engagement. Not every person deserves access to your peace. Mature people understand this. Sometimes the strongest response is emotional non-participation. Sometimes power is simply refusing to let foolishness enter your nervous system. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to react to every provocation. You do not have to internalize every opinion. You do not have to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Protecting your peace requires emotional standards. It requires deciding who actually matters, what actually matters, what deserves my attention, what deserves absolutely nothing from me. Most daily stress comes from overreacting to things that do not matter. Temporary inconveniences, immature people, minor disrespect, pointless opinions, unimportant conflicts. People destroy their nervous system responding intensely to things beneath them. But disciplined people understand, if it does not matter in 5 years, it likely does not deserve 5 hours of emotional suffering. You must stop treating every irritation like an emergency, because constant emotional activation destroys your ability to think clearly. A dysregulated nervous system creates a dysregulated life. When your body lives in constant stress, your thinking becomes irrational, your patience disappears, your discipline weakens, your focus collapses. That is why emotional peace is not luxury, it is necessity. Protecting your nervous system is protecting your performance. Elite performers know this. They do not waste emotional energy on meaningless chaos. They conserve it. They protect it. They understand that emotional energy is a limited resource,
and wasting it on petty people, petty opinions, petty frustrations is self-sabotage. So from now on, before reacting, ask yourself, does this deserve access to my peace? Does this truly matter? Will this affect my future? Is this worth disturbing my nervous system over? Or am I giving emotional significance to something meaningless? Most of the time, the answer is no. And when the answer is no, let it go. Not because you are weak, because you are disciplined. Because not everything deserves your reaction. The emotionally mature understand, calmness is not passivity, it is selectivity. It is choosing carefully what enters your inner world. It is deciding that your peace is too valuable to be disturbed by everything. Guard your peace like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your nervous system affects your decisions, your relationships, your discipline, your health, your future. So stop letting everyone touch it. Stop giving strangers authority over your mood. Stop allowing criticism to destroy your confidence. Stop allowing immature people to drag you into emotional chaos. Your peace is earned access, not public access. Protect it, defend it, honor it. Because the moment you stop giving everyone access to your nervous system, you become harder to shake, harder to manipulate, harder to control. And that is the beginning of real power.
In the modern world, most people mistake noise for strength. They think dominance is loud. They think confidence is aggressive. They think power means controlling others. But true power has never been about controlling others. True power is controlling yourself. Because in a world full of emotional people, people who panic, rage, overreact, complain, and collapse under pressure, the person who remains calm instantly stands apart. Calmness is rare now, and rarity creates value. Anyone can appear composed when life is easy. Anyone can smile when things go their way. Anyone can speak confidently when they feel comfortable. But when pressure arrives, deadlines, conflict, betrayal, criticism, uncertainty, chaos, most people lose themselves. They become reactive, impulsive, emotional, unstable. That is when emotional control becomes visible, and visible discipline creates authority. Think about the people the world naturally respects: leaders in crisis, elite athletes under pressure, commanders in battle, negotiators in tension, surgeons in emergency rooms, pilots during turbulence. What do they all share? Not emotionlessness, control. The ability to remain composed while others panic. That ability is power, because when everyone else is emotional, the calm person becomes the anchor, the strategist, the decision maker, the leader. Why? Because emotional people cannot think clearly. The human brain under emotional overload does not operate rationally. It reacts for survival, not strategy. Fear narrows judgment. Anger distorts perception. Panic destroys logic. Stress weakens discipline. That means in moments of chaos, the most emotionally controlled person almost always gains the advantage, because while others react, they think. While others panic, they plan. While others lose perspective, they maintain clarity. This is why emotional control is modern-day power, not because it looks impressive, because it creates functional superiority. The ability to think clearly when others cannot is an unfair advantage. The ability to stay disciplined when others become emotional is an unfair advantage. The ability to remain strategic when others become impulsive is an unfair advantage. Most people destroy opportunities not from lack of talent, but from lack of emotional control.
They sabotage interviews because nerves overpower composure. They sabotage relationships because anger overrides communication. They sabotage careers because ego overrides discipline. They sabotage businesses because panic overrides patience. The world is full of capable people who fail emotionally. Talent without emotional discipline is unstable potential. Skill without emotional control is unreliable strength. Knowledge without composure is wasted intelligence. This is why the strongest people are not always the smartest, the richest, or the most gifted. They are often the most regulated. The ones who can stay steady when others spiral. The ones who can delay reaction when others erupt. The ones who can remain disciplined when emotions beg for relief. And because emotional control is rare, those who possess it command respect without demanding it. People trust calm individuals. They feel safer around them. They assume competence. They sense leadership. Because composure signals capability. It communicates, I can handle pressure. I do not collapse under stress. My emotions do not own me. That is presence. That is authority. That is power. But understand, emotional control is not natural. It is trained. No one is born unshakable. They become unshakable through repeated exposure to discomfort, pressure, conflict, adversity, and self-discipline. Every difficult moment is an opportunity to train composure. Every inconvenience is a test of regulation. Every disrespect is a chance to practice restraint. Every setback is a chance to strengthen your nervous system. Weak people waste these moments. They react emotionally and learn nothing. Strong people use them. They treat frustration as emotional resistance training. They understand every moment of pressure is rehearsal for greater pressure. So, if you want power, train emotional control daily. When frustrated, practice calm. When criticized, practice detachment. When pressured, practice breathing. When angry, practice silence. When disrespected, practice restraint. Not because you feel like it, because discipline matters more than feeling. Because power belongs to the person who can govern themselves under pressure. Anyone can lead when conditions are favorable. Anyone can look strong when nothing challenges them. But the real test of power is simple. Who do you become when life stops cooperating? Do you panic? Do you rage? Do you complain? Do you collapse? Do you lose discipline? Or do you remain composed and keep moving? Because that answer determines your future. The world rewards emotional stability. Businesses trust it. Relationships require it. Leadership demands it. Success depends on it. So stop treating emotional control like an optional personality trait. It is not. It is one of the highest forms of strength a human can develop. Master your emotions and you master pressure. Master pressure and you master performance. Master performance and you change your life. Remember this. In a world where most people cannot control themselves, the person who can becomes powerful by default.
Most people think their anger is justified. They say, I'm angry because they disrespected me. I'm angry because they crossed the line. I'm angry because they treated me unfairly. But if you look deeper, much of what people call anger is not strength. It is wounded ego. Because most anger is not born from true injustice. It is born from your self-image being threatened. Someone questions your intelligence, you react. Someone challenges your authority, you react. Someone insults your appearance, you react. Someone ignores your effort, you react. Why? Because your ego interprets disagreement, disrespect, and rejection as attacks on identity. And when identity feels attacked, emotion explodes. But here is the truth few accept. If someone's words can destabilize you, there is likely insecurity beneath the surface. Insults only hurt deeply when they touch something you secretly fear may be true. Think about it. If someone calls you something you know is false, you barely react. If someone calls a disciplined person lazy, they laugh. If someone calls a wealthy person broke, they smirk. If someone calls a loving parent uncaring, they dismiss it. Why? Because false accusations do not penetrate secure identity. But when criticism angers you intensely, it often reveals internal doubt. The insult hurts because part of you believes it. That is why anger is often exposure. It exposes unresolved insecurity, unhealed wounds, fragile self-image, untrained ego. The ego's job is to protect identity. It wants to be admired, respected, validated, seen as competent, seen as superior, seen as important. And whenever reality threatens that image, ego resists. It becomes defensive, hostile, reactive, aggressive. But mature people understand not every threat to your ego is a threat to your actual worth. Someone disrespecting you does not reduce your value. Someone doubting you does not diminish your capability. Someone misunderstanding you does not change your truth. But ego takes everything personally because ego is addicted to image management. It wants constant confirmation that you are enough. And the more fragile your ego, the easier others can control you. Because if your self-worth depends on being perceived a certain way, then anyone who challenges that perception can destabilize you. That is slavery. Real confidence does not need constant protection. Real confidence does not panic at criticism. Real confidence does not explode over disrespect. Real confidence does not require everyone to acknowledge its value. Why? Because secure people do not need endless validation. They know who they are. And when you know who you are, other people's opinions lose their power. This is why disciplined people focus less on defending image and more on building substance. Weak people obsess over being perceived as strong. Strong people become strong. Weak people obsess over appearing confident. Confident people build real competence. Weak people react to protect reputation. Secure people let results speak. Understand this clearly. A fragile ego creates a fragile life, because if your identity is weak, every disagreement feels like disrespect. Every criticism feels like attack. Every rejection feels like humiliation. Every failure feels like a collapse. And you will spend your life in emotional warfare with anyone who bruises your pride. That is exhausting and unnecessary, because many battles are not worth fighting, especially the ones your ego invents. Sometimes the smartest response is to ask, am I truly defending what matters, or am I defending my pride? That question changes everything, because pride has destroyed more opportunities than weakness ever has. Pride ruins relationships by refusing apology. Pride ruins careers by rejecting feedback. Pride ruins growth by avoiding humility. Pride ruins peace by demanding constant validation. Your ego will keep you emotionally weak if left untrained. So, train it. Let people underestimate you without correcting them. Let people misunderstand you without panicking. Let criticism arrive without immediate defense. Let your pride be bruised without reacting. Because every time you resist ego's demand for validation and defense, you become stronger. The goal is not to destroy your ego completely. The goal is to stop serving it blindly. Use ego for ambition, not emotional instability. Let it drive excellence, not reactivity. Let it fuel discipline, not defensiveness. Because once your ego is trained, anger loses much of its grip. You stop needing to prove yourself constantly. You stop reacting to every slight. You stop defending yourself against every opinion. You stop living for external validation. And in that freedom, you become harder to provoke. Remember, the person who must constantly prove their worth usually doubts it internally. The person secure in their value moves differently, quietly, calmly, confidently, without needing to announce it. So the next time anger rises, pause and ask yourself, am I angry because this matters or because my ego feels threatened? That single question can save you from thousands of unnecessary battles. Because most anger is not principle, it is pride. And untrained pride is emotional weakness disguised as strength.
Most people do not choose their reactions. They experience emotion and obey it instantly. Something frustrates them, they snap. Someone insults them, they retaliate. Something goes wrong, they panic. A plan changes, they complain. They call this honesty. They call this being real. They call this just who I am. But it is not authenticity. It is lack of control. Because the strongest people in the world are not those who never feel emotion. They are those who feel emotion and still choose discipline. That choice begins with one simple skill: the pause. Between every trigger and every reaction, there is a moment, a tiny gap, a brief window where emotion surges, but action has not yet happened. That window is where power lives. Most people never use it. Their emotions arise, and they react before thinking. Their mouth moves before their mind does. Their anger acts before their judgment does. Their impulses decide before reason arrives. And then, later, they say, I didn't mean it. I was just angry. I wasn't thinking. Exactly. That is the problem. They were not thinking. Because reaction is automatic. Response is deliberate. Reaction is impulse. Response is control. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. The pause transforms reaction into response. It interrupts emotional momentum. It gives your rational mind time to re-enter the room. And often, that tiny pause is the difference between destruction and discipline. One pause can prevent a ruined relationship, a reckless message, a career-ending outburst, a humiliating argument, a decision you regret for years. The cost of impulsive reaction is often far greater than people realize. A few seconds of emotional stupidity can create years of consequences. That is why emotional discipline requires delayed reaction. Not suppression, not pretending you feel nothing, simply refusing to obey emotion instantly. Train yourself to pause before speaking, pause before texting, pause before arguing, pause before retaliating, pause before making decisions while emotional. Because your first emotional impulse is often your least intelligent one. Anger wants revenge, fear wants retreat, ego wants defense, pain wants destruction. Emotion seeks relief, not wisdom. Its goal is not what is best for you long term. Its goal is immediate release. That is why obeying emotion blindly creates self-sabotage. Strong people understand, just because you feel something does not mean you must act on it. You can feel anger without speaking from it. You can feel hurt without reacting from it. You can feel fear without surrendering to it. The pause creates separation between feeling and behavior, and that separation is maturity. One of the most practical disciplines you can build is the 3-second rule. When triggered, say nothing for 3 seconds. Breathe. Hold eye contact if needed. Let the emotion rise without immediate expression. This simple habit disrupts impulsivity. It retrains your nervous system to tolerate emotional discomfort without instant discharge. At first, it will feel unnatural. Your body will scream, respond now, defend yourself now, say something now, do not let this go. Ignore that voice. That voice is impulse. Discipline means not obeying every internal command. Children act immediately on every emotion. Adults with discipline can wait. And often, if you pause long enough, you realize the reaction you wanted to give would have been foolish. You realize it was not worth it. They were baiting you. You misunderstood. You were overreacting. Your ego was involved. The moment did not deserve escalation. This is why pausing does not make you passive. It makes you strategic. The pause allows you to ask better questions. What response serves me best? What outcome do I actually want? Is reacting emotionally hurting me or helping me? Will this matter tomorrow? Am I choosing strength or just venting emotion? These questions can only be asked if you pause first. Without the pause, you remain a slave to emotional immediacy, and a person who cannot delay reaction cannot build discipline. Because discipline itself is delayed gratification. It is resisting what feels right now for what serves you later. The pause is micro-discipline, a small moment of self-governance, and every time you practice it, you strengthen control. Every paused reaction rewires your behavior. Every restrained impulse builds emotional endurance. Every moment of chosen silence increases self-mastery. Soon, what once triggered immediate reaction begins losing its power, because you are no longer conditioned to obey emotion automatically. You become measured, deliberate, composed, and others notice. They notice you no longer react like before. They notice you cannot be baited easily. They notice your emotional discipline has increased. And when people realize they cannot provoke you easily, they stop trying. Remember this. The person who controls the moment between trigger and response controls their life. Because your life is built from decisions, and your decisions are shaped by your emotional state. Master the pause, and you master your decisions. Master your decisions, and you master your future. So from now on, when triggered, pause. When insulted, pause. When angry, pause. When pressured, pause. Not because you are afraid to react, because you are disciplined enough to choose better.
Most people speak too much because silence makes them uncomfortable. They rush to explain themselves, rush to defend themselves, rush to fill every pause, rush to prove they are right, rush to justify their actions. Why? Because silence feels vulnerable to those who lack inner control. They believe if they are not speaking, they are losing. But disciplined people understand something deeper. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Because when you can remain silent while emotion demands expression, you demonstrate mastery. Anyone can talk when triggered. Anyone can argue when emotional. Anyone can defend themselves when offended. But remaining composed and silent when your ego wants to explode, that takes strength. Silence is difficult because it forces you to tolerate discomfort without discharge. It forces you to sit with emotion instead of dumping it outward. And most people cannot do that. They need immediate release. They need to vent, to explain, to retaliate, to prove a point, to win the argument. But often, the need to speak comes not from wisdom, it comes from insecurity. Because secure people do not feel compelled to defend themselves constantly. They understand not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Not every insult needs retaliation. Not every opinion needs rebuttal. Sometimes silence is the highest form of confidence. Because silence communicates, I do not need to prove myself to you. I am not emotionally rattled by this. Your words do not control me. I choose restraint over reaction. That is psychological strength. Silence unsettles emotional people. Why? Because reactive individuals expect reaction. They want your anger. They want your defense. They want your explanation. They want evidence that they affected you. And when they get nothing, it frustrates them. Because your silence denies them emotional leverage. You become difficult to manipulate when you stop giving people the reaction they seek. This is why silence can be more powerful than argument. An angry response often escalates conflict. Measured silence often ends it. Because many people do not want understanding, they want emotional engagement. They want drama. They want validation. They want your nervous system involved. Silence refuses participation, and refusal to participate is power. But understand, silence is not avoidance. It is not passive aggression. It is not fear. It is not suppression. True silence is chosen restraint. It is conscious discipline. It is saying, I could respond. I simply choose not to. That difference matters. Weak silence comes from fear. Strong silence comes from control. Learn to recognize when speaking helps and when speaking harms. Many people destroy their peace because they cannot stop explaining. They over-explain their decisions, over-defend their character, over-justify their boundaries, over-argue with those committed to misunderstanding them. But some people will misunderstand you no matter what you say. Some people do not want truth, they want conflict, and no explanation can satisfy someone determined not to understand. At that point, words become wasted energy. Silence becomes wisdom. One of the most powerful disciplines you can build is the ability to leave things unsaid, to let people think what they want, to let accusations sit unanswered, to let false narratives exist without rushing to correct them, to let your results speak louder than your explanations. Weak people need constant recognition. Strong people trust time. They know truth does not require frantic defense. If your character is real, it will reveal itself eventually. If your competence is real, it will prove itself eventually. If your value is real, it will become obvious eventually. So stop panicking every time someone misunderstands you. Stop feeling compelled to explain yourself to everyone. Stop wasting energy trying to control perceptions. You cannot, and trying to will exhaust you. Silence also gives you another advantage. It makes you observant. When you speak less, you notice more. You hear what others miss. You observe what others reveal. You gather information instead of leaking your own. Talkative people expose themselves. Silent people study. And in life, the person who observes more often understands more. That understanding creates advantage. So practice silence. When insulted, pause, then stay silent. When baited, remain composed. When misunderstood, resist over-explaining. When emotional, say less, not more. Because many of your worst mistakes have come from things said emotionally that should have remained unspoken. And many of your greatest strengths will come from learning restraint. Remember this, the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest person is often the one who has full control over when to speak and when not to. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is contained power. Use it wisely. One of the most exhausting emotional addictions a person can have is the need to be understood by everyone. To have everyone see your intentions, to have everyone agree with your motives, to have everyone recognize your heart, to have everyone interpret their actions fairly. But the truth is brutal. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will see your intentions clearly. Not everyone will interpret your actions fairly. Not everyone will give you the benefit of the doubt. Not everyone will want to understand you at all. And if your peace depends on universal understanding, you will live in constant frustration. Because many people are committed to misunderstanding you. Not because you failed to explain yourself, because misunderstanding benefits them. It protects their ego. It supports their narrative. It justifies their resentment. It maintains their comfort. No amount of explanation can enlighten someone who prefers distortion. Yet weak people keep trying. They over-explain their motives. They repeat themselves endlessly. They defend every decision. They obsess over correcting every false perception. Why? Because they cannot tolerate being misunderstood. Their identity feels threatened when others perceive them inaccurately. So they exhaust themselves, chasing validation through explanation. But mature people learn a painful truth. You can explain yourself perfectly and still be misunderstood intentionally. Because understanding is not always the issue. Willingness is. Some people do not want clarity. They want conflict. They want someone to blame. They want a villain in their story. They want justification for disliking you. And if someone is committed to seeing you through a distorted lens, your explanations are useless. At that point, you are not communicating. You are begging to be perceived correctly. And begging for understanding is emotional dependence. Because the moment you need others to validate your intentions before you can feel at peace, you become their prisoner. Freedom begins when you stop requiring everyone's understanding to trust your own truth. You know your intentions. You know your values. You know your character. You know your reasons. That must become enough. Not because perception never matters, but because obsessing over perception destroys peace. There is a deep maturity in accepting this. Some people will misunderstand you no matter what you do. Be kind, they call you weak. Be assertive, they call you arrogant. Stay quiet, they call you cold. Speak honestly, they call you rude. Set boundaries, they call you selfish. You cannot win when people are determined to interpret you negatively. So stop trying. Stop tailoring your life to avoid misinterpretation. Stop shrinking yourself to fit others' comfort. Stop explaining your boundaries to those who resent them. Stop defending your decisions to people who would never support them anyway. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. And the most powerful thing you can accept is this: being misunderstood does not make you wrong. Read that again. Being misunderstood does not mean you failed. Being criticized does not mean you are mistaken. Being judged unfairly does not mean you must defend yourself. Many of the strongest people in history were deeply misunderstood. Visionaries, leaders, innovators, disciplinarians, boundary setters. Why? Because people often reject what they do not understand. And if you build your life around being universally accepted, you will dilute yourself into mediocrity. Greatness often requires being misunderstood. It requires trusting your path without constant approval. It requires making decisions others may judge unfairly. It requires enduring criticism without abandoning conviction. So, when people misunderstand you, let them. Let them think what they want. Let them misread your silence. Let them question your motives. Let them form their opinions. Not because their opinions are accurate, because your peace matters more than their perception. Your responsibility is to live with integrity, not to manage everyone's interpretation of it.
There is immense strength in being able to say internally, "You may misunderstand me. I do not need to correct you." That mindset is emotional freedom. Because once you stop needing everyone to understand you, you stop over-explaining. You stop defending constantly. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing judgment. You become calmer, quieter, stronger. And ironically, the less desperate you are to be understood, the more grounded you appear. People sense security in those who do not beg for validation. Because secure people do not perform for approval. They live by principle. So, from now on, explain once if needed. Clarify when appropriate. Communicate honestly. But if someone remains committed to misunderstanding you, walk away. Not every person deserves continued access to your explanations. Some people deserve silence. Some people deserve distance. Some people deserve to remain confused, because your peace is too valuable to waste on those determined not to understand. Remember this: you do not need everyone's understanding to walk confidently in your truth. You only need the discipline to trust yourself without external permission.
Most people are not emotionally weak because life is too hard. They are emotionally weak because life has become too comfortable. They panic at inconvenience. They collapse under pressure. They avoid challenge. They flee discomfort at the first sign of pain. Not because they are incapable, because they are untrained. Modern comfort has made many people fragile. Everything is designed to reduce resistance. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant validation, instant comfort, instant escape. The moment discomfort appears, people numb it. They distract themselves, avoid it, escape it, complain about it, medicate it, run from it. And every time they do, they reinforce weakness. Because what you avoid does not become easier, you become weaker. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your training ground. Every difficult thing you avoid becomes a future weakness. Every discomfort you run from reduces your resilience. Every urge you obey immediately makes discipline harder tomorrow. The reason many people cannot handle emotional stress is because they have trained themselves to avoid all forms of discomfort. They have never taught their nervous system how to stay calm while uncomfortable. So, the moment life gets hard, they break. But strong people understand. Resilience is built through voluntary discomfort. You train emotional endurance the same way you train physical endurance, by exposing yourself to controlled hardship repeatedly. No one becomes mentally tough through comfort. Comfort creates softness. Hardship creates capacity. This is why disciplined people intentionally do difficult things, not because suffering is the goal, because strength is. Cold showers, hard workouts, fasting, difficult conversations, waking early, saying no to cravings, doing work when tired, holding posture under fatigue. These are not random habits. They are nervous system training. They teach your mind and body discomfort is not danger. Pain is survivable. Urges do not control me. I can remain disciplined while uncomfortable. That lesson changes everything. Because once you train yourself to tolerate discomfort physically, you become better at tolerating it emotionally. You stop panicking when life feels hard. You stop collapsing when pressure rises. You stop needing immediate relief from every negative feeling. Why? Because your nervous system learns, I have been uncomfortable before. I can handle this too. Most emotional reactions are simply discomfort intolerance. People lash out because anger is uncomfortable. They quit because struggle is uncomfortable. They procrastinate because effort is uncomfortable. They overeat because cravings are uncomfortable. They avoid confrontation because tension is uncomfortable. They stay weak because discipline is uncomfortable. But life does not reward comfort seeking.
It rewards resilience, and resilience belongs to those who can endure discomfort without losing discipline. This is one of the greatest mindset shifts you can make. Stop asking, how do I avoid discomfort? Start asking, how do I become stronger than discomfort? Because discomfort is not going away. Pain is part of life. Pressure is part of growth. Stress is part of ambition. Sacrifice is part of excellence. If you cannot tolerate discomfort, you cannot sustain greatness. So train for it. When you want to quit, keep going a little longer. When you want comfort, delay it. When your body says stop, practice discernment, then endure what is safe to endure. When your emotions beg for escape, stay present. Build the habit of not obeying discomfort immediately. This is how discipline is formed. Every time you endure discomfort without escaping, you prove to yourself, I am stronger than this feeling. That belief compounds. Soon, discomfort stops feeling like threat. It starts feeling like growth. And once discomfort becomes associated with growth, your entire life changes. You stop fearing challenge. You stop avoiding hard things. You stop collapsing under pressure. You stop needing life to feel easy before you perform. You become dangerous. Because most people only function well when conditions are favorable, but disciplined people can perform under strain. They can work while tired, stay calm while stressed, lead while pressured, persist while uncomfortable. That is rare, and rarity creates advantage. Remember this. Your future strength depends on the discomfort you are willing to endure today. Every time you choose hardship over ease, you build capacity. Every time you stay disciplined while uncomfortable, you build power. Every time you do what is difficult instead of what is easy, you become less fragile. Train your body, train your mind, train your nervous system. Make discomfort familiar. Because when hardship becomes familiar, life stops scaring you.
One of the fastest ways to destroy your peace is to make everything about you. Someone is rude, you assume it is personal. Someone criticizes you, you assume they hate you. Someone pulls away, you assume you caused it. Someone acts cold, you assume you did something wrong. But the truth is, most of what people do has very little to do with you. It has to do with them, their pain, their stress, their insecurity, their trauma, their upbringing, their jealousy, their fear, their emotional immaturity. Yet weak people interpret everyone's behavior through self-centered emotion. They assume this happened because of me. They acted that way because of me. Their mood reflects my worth. But the truth is, most of what people do has very little to do with you. It has to do with them. Their pain, their stress, their insecurity, their trauma, their upbringing, their jealousy, their fear, their emotional immaturity. Yet weak people interpret everyone's behavior through self-centered emotion. They assume this happened because of me. They acted that way because of me. Their mood reflects my worth. But by doing so, they absorb pain that was never theirs to carry. This is emotional immaturity. Because mature people understand, other people's behavior is often a reflection of their internal world, not your value. A rude person may simply be miserable. A critical person may be deeply insecure. An arrogant person may be overcompensating. A dismissive person may be emotionally wounded. A jealous person may be projecting inadequacy. Their behavior reveals them more than it reveals you. Read that again. How people treat you often says more about them than it says about you. This realization creates enormous emotional freedom.
Because once you understand that most negativity is projection, you stop internalizing it. You stop assuming every criticism is truth. You stop treating every rejection as personal failure. You stop believing every insult is an accurate assessment. You stop carrying other people's emotional dysfunction as if it were your responsibility. Projection is common. People often accuse others of what they secretly hate within themselves. They criticize traits they are insecure about. They attack what threatens them. They diminish what intimidates them. They mock what they envy. And if you take all of that personally, you will spend your life bleeding from wounds that were never yours. This does not mean ignore all feedback. Some criticism is useful. Some feedback is accurate. Some correction is necessary. Some hard truths help you grow. But emotional maturity means learning to separate constructive truth from emotional projection, wisdom from wounded opinion, helpful correction from insecure criticism. Not every negative opinion deserves internalization. Not every insult contains truth. Not every rejection is your deficiency. Sometimes people reject you because they cannot understand you. Sometimes they criticize you because your discipline exposes their excuses. Sometimes they dislike you because your presence reflects what they lack. Sometimes their treatment of you has nothing to do with you at all. So stop assuming every negative interaction is a verdict on your worth. That mindset creates needless suffering. It makes you hypersensitive, defensive, anxious, people-pleasing, emotionally fragile. Because if every opinion matters, you will never know peace. Strong people understand you must develop the ability to let others have their perceptions without absorbing them. Let them dislike you. Let them misjudge you. Let them criticize you. Let them project. Let them misunderstand. Not because their behavior is acceptable, because their behavior does not define you. You define you. And once your self-worth is built internally, external negativity loses much of its power. One of the healthiest questions you can ask when someone treats you poorly is, what pain, insecurity, or dysfunction might this behavior be revealing about them? That question shifts perspective. It moves you from personalization to observation, from emotional reaction to emotional intelligence. Instead of thinking, why are they doing this to me? You begin asking, what is happening within them that is causing this behavior? That shift protects your peace, because understanding creates detachment, and detachment creates calm. So the next time someone is rude, critical, cold, jealous, dismissive, or unfair, pause and remind yourself, their behavior is about them, not me. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Because once you stop taking everything personally, you stop giving everyone the power to wound you. And when others lose the ability to wound you easily, you become emotionally dangerous.
Most people are not destroyed by hardship. They are destroyed by surprise. They collapse not because life became difficult, but because they expected it not to. They expected things to go smoothly, expected people to behave fairly, expected plans to work perfectly, expected progress to be linear, expected success to arrive without resistance. And when reality contradicts those expectations, they panic, they complain, they lose composure, they question everything. They act as if hardship is abnormal. But hardship is not abnormal. It is life. Delays are normal. Disappointment is normal. Conflict is normal. Failure is normal. Misunderstanding is normal. Loss is normal. Chaos is normal. The problem is not that life is difficult. The problem is that most people are shocked when difficulty arrives. They live mentally unprepared, and unprepared minds break faster. One of the greatest emotional advantages you can develop is realistic expectation. Stop expecting ease. Stop expecting life to cooperate with your plans. Stop expecting people to always be loyal, fair, honest, or mature. Stop expecting progress without setbacks. Stop expecting ambition without sacrifice. Stop expecting discipline to feel pleasant, because the moment you stop expecting ease, difficulty stops feeling like injustice. It starts feeling normal. And when difficulty feels normal, you handle it better. Much emotional suffering comes not from pain itself, but from resistance to pain. From the internal protest, this should not be happening. Why is this happening to me? Things were supposed to go better. That mindset multiplies suffering, because now you are not just facing hardship, you are fighting reality itself, and reality always wins. Mature people understand life is not obligated to be easy. It owes you nothing. No smooth path, no guaranteed fairness, no constant comfort, no perfect timing, no immunity from struggle. The sooner you accept that, the stronger you become. Because acceptance does not weaken you, it prepares you. When you expect obstacles, you stop being emotionally shattered by them. When you expect resistance, you stop interpreting it as failure. When you expect setbacks, you recover faster. When you expect chaos, you remain calmer inside it. This is not pessimism, it is preparedness. Pessimism says everything will go wrong. Preparedness says some things will go wrong and I am ready. That distinction matters. Prepared people do not panic at difficulty. They planned for it. They understand the road to anything meaningful will include resistance. Relationships will face conflict. Businesses will face setbacks. Goals will face delays. Bodies will face fatigue. Minds will face doubt. That is not a sign you are on the wrong path. That is the path. Struggle is not interruption. Struggle is process. And once you understand that, you stop romanticizing effortless success. You stop envying the false fantasy of easy lives. You stop believing that hardship means you are failing. No, hardship often means you are exactly where growth happens. Pressure builds capacity. Resistance builds strength. Chaos builds composure. Setbacks build resilience. Without challenge, there is no transformation. So instead of asking, why is this hard? Ask, why did I expect it not to be? That question destroys entitlement, and entitlement is one of the greatest causes of emotional fragility. Entitled people believe they deserve smooth progress. They deserve easy outcomes. They deserve comfort. They deserve fairness. They deserve convenience. And because of that belief, every obstacle feels offensive. But disciplined people expect resistance. They wake up prepared for challenge, prepared for delays, prepared for stress, prepared for mistakes, prepared for discomfort, prepared for setbacks. So when those things happen, they adjust. They do not collapse. This mindset creates emotional durability, because the mind that expects storms does not panic when clouds appear. So train yourself to expect difficulty, not fearfully, calmly. Understand that chaos will come. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Progress will slow. Unexpected problems will arise. Life will become inconvenient. And when it does, do not say, why is this happening? Say, of course this is happening. This is life. Adjust. That mindset creates power, because the person who expects resistance remains steady within it. While others panic, they adapt. While others complain, they execute. While others collapse, they continue. Remember this.
The strongest people are not those who live without chaos. They are those who remain composed because they expected it.
Most people reveal too much. Their face shows every emotion, their tone reveals every irritation, their body language exposes every insecurity, their reactions advertise every weakness. Before they say a word, the room already knows how they feel. And when people can read you easily, they can predict you easily. When they can predict you easily, they can manipulate you easily. That is why emotional discipline is not only internal, it is visible. Your face, posture, voice, and presence broadcast your inner state, whether you realize it or not. Nervous people fidget. Insecure people over-explain. Reactive people interrupt. Angry people tense up. Fearful people avoid eye contact. Desperate people seek approval. The body reveals what the mind has not mastered. This is why composure is more than emotional control. It is physical control. Because if your body betrays every emotion you feel, your discipline is incomplete. To become unmovable, you must become harder to read. Not fake, not robotic, not emotionally dead, controlled, measured, deliberate. You must learn to feel emotion without displaying all of it, because visible composure creates psychological advantage. People respect what they cannot easily decipher. They become cautious around those who remain steady, unreadable, composed. Why? Because emotional unpredictability creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates perceived power. If people do not know what affects you, they struggle to control you. If they cannot read whether you are angry, offended, nervous, insecure, or shaken, they lose leverage. But if your face reveals everything, if your voice cracks under pressure, if your posture collapses when challenged, if your emotions leak constantly, you give others data. You show them what unsettles you, what intimidates you, what offends you, what pressures you, what controls you. That is unnecessary exposure. Power often belongs to the person who reveals less. This is why elite negotiators, leaders, competitors, and strategists master neutral presence. They control facial expressions, tone of voice, breathing, posture, eye contact, pacing, because they understand composure influences perception, and perception shapes outcomes. A calm presence signals confidence. A measured tone signals authority. Relaxed posture signals control. Steady eye contact signals fearlessness. You do not need to say you are strong. Your presence should communicate it. But this takes practice, because when emotions rise, your body wants to react. It wants to roll your eyes, raise your voice, cross your arms, look away, fidget, tense up, speak too fast, reveal insecurity. Discipline means not letting your body obey emotion automatically. It means training neutrality. The next time pressure rises, slow your breathing, relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, keep your face neutral, maintain eye contact, speak slower than usual, move less. Why? Because calm movement communicates calm mind. Stillness creates presence. Rushed people feel weak. Still people feel grounded. Controlled people move deliberately. They do not twitch with anxiety. They do not gesture wildly when emotional. They do not rush speech when pressured. They remain measured. And measured behavior creates authority. But becoming hard to read is not about manipulation. It is about discipline. It is about refusing to let your internal state become public chaos. It is about containing emotion until you choose how to express it, not leaking it automatically. Remember,
Just because you feel shaken does not mean you must look shaken. Just because you feel nervous does not mean you must appear nervous. Just because you feel angry does not mean you must display anger. Control what you reveal. Choose what you express. Decide consciously what the world gets access to. Because once people realize they cannot easily read you, they become more careful, more respectful, more observant, more cautious. Why? Because mystery creates presence, and composure creates weight. The most dangerous person is often not the loudest, it is the calm one whose emotions remain private, the one who does not flinch easily, does not react visibly, does not reveal weakness carelessly. That person feels powerful before they even speak. So train your external composure to match your internal discipline. Become calm in posture, calm in expression, calm in speech, calm in movement. Let others wonder what you are thinking. Let them guess how you feel. Let them struggle to affect you. Because the less readable you become, the less controllable you become.
The world will always test you. People will disrespect you. Plans will fail. Delays will happen. Chaos will come. And in those moments, your reaction will reveal who you truly are. Weak people react. Strong people remain composed. Weak people explode. Strong people observe. Weak people lose control. Strong people control themselves first. Becoming unmovable is not about feeling nothing. It is about mastering everything you feel. From this day forward, stop being easy to provoke. Stop giving people emotional power over you. Stop reacting like a slave to your impulses. Become still. Become disciplined. Become dangerous through control. Because the person who rules their emotions rules their life.